Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are here with another season's podcast episode. Oh man, I took a break because I feel that if you continue to operate in a way that isn't beneficial to who you are, just don't do it. If I can't come on here and show myself, and it doesn't have to necessarily be at my best, but if I can't even, if I have to drag my legs to record, and not in terms of like being disciplined, because I feel like there's a big difference if the content that you push centers around quality of life, um, being disciplined is critical, obviously, for continuing to do this. But I think that mental health still should be taken into consideration. Like I can't give up my mental health just to post. And I think that's one of the biggest struggles of content creation is because like when you wake up in the morning, for me at least, and you go to work and then you get off work and then you do everything else, and then let's say you had a bad week at work, and then let's say that it's been a rough week everywhere else. If you find yourself out of alignment with how you feel, or like just the distress of it, for me, I don't really push through in certain instances when it comes to my podcast because I want it to be authentic. I want it to be genuine. And if I don't even have the energy to like give you guys a low version of myself or whatever version that I currently am, the season that I'm currently in, if I don't have the energy to even open up my laptop and click record, then it's time for me to sit back and you know reevaluate where I'm at. I mean, that's just how I feel about it. And so right now, I'm doing a little bit of a staycation. As you can see, I'm definitely chilling. Um, but for the topic of this today's episode is to show me, show me how. And I thought about it because I think a lot of times, at least amongst my friends and men, men in general, and then black men, and then black women as well. Well, I guess it can apply to everyone, but I find it to be something that's not really as incentivized amongst people of color, which is mental health. Mental health being the first to do something, it's so difficult. And then you throw in content creation, and it's like, I was watching this podcast. His name's Justin Frett, and he was saying how like if you do not know who you are, do not do content creation. And I feel like that's the most honest truth that you can give as a content creator. Because it's like, excuse me, if you forget who you are, then the views that you don't get, oh my gosh, excuse me, the views that you don't get will only impact how you feel about yourself. Like your self worth will be tied to the views, will be tied to the positive comments, it'll be tied to the whole ordeal. And I think that although all of us experience a form of will this perform well, we all experience as content creators, or even in general in life when it comes to work, will this work? Will this perform well? Is it something that we can capitalize on? And I think that you have to be careful because it's a very thin area because a lot of people are what is it, parasocial relationships? Is that what it is? Whatever the term means that people become attached to social relationships as opposed to what's going on in reality, that's the easiest way to have that, I think, like a symbiote relationship, in my opinion. Like you keep posting content so it keeps fueling the way that you feel about yourself. And I don't want to lead you down that road. And I think that to segue, mental health amongst people that look like me um, has to not be frowned upon. It's very important. And I don't want to speak for the women because I'm not a woman myself, but as someone who watched my mother growing up, like mental health is the most important thing, and you have to really make that an important thing for you, for women, for ladies, whether it's getting your nails done, your toes done, taking that day off to yourself. And that's all I can say on that one because that's not who I am. Now for my men, oh gosh, there's something about being a man in this time period, especially at this age, that feels like you're running on a hamster wheel that never stops. You know, it's either you're not making enough, you're not working hard enough, you're not working long enough, you're not. There's so many things that say you're not doing this, you're not doing enough. Even if it's time of strife, like if you're down bad and all of a sudden you're still expected to perform the same way, like it's just you're nonstop performing for others. And I think we have to stop maneuvering like our mental health does not matter or doesn't get impacted. A lot of times we need to take a stand. The way in which that you want to work hard, even for ourselves, like we don't feel like we work hard enough, we don't feel like we work long enough, or we don't feel like we're making enough. Even that in of itself, like you take a stand and be like, you know what? If I'm not right in my head, I won't be right at work. And I think that's just it's so easy, especially as men. It's so easy to get lost in the work that we're doing and getting lost in pursuing things that we forget to take some time to stop and just look around. Look at your hands and just check your well-being. Take inventory. And it's one of the things that, like, I think the reason why I took a break from last week is because I needed to stop and take a look around and kind of just uh, take inventory of myself and be like, what are we doing here? What's the goal? I almost lost sight of it because of there's so much going on in life, but it reminded me of the goal is not to have the views. The goal is not, to have a certain amount of ratings. The goal is not making all the money I possibly can. The goal is community. The goal is that I hope that there would be people who watch how I maneuver in my life, whether it's good or bad, and be like, you know what, I learned something from this. Or I understand where he's coming from, or I understand how he feels, or this is a way I can maneuver out that, or this makes sense, or no one's never said anything about this. So I want to continue to create a space for men and people in general to continue to evolve in seasons of their life, especially at such a young age where everything is set in front of you as something to jump over. It's always a hurdle. It's always a chip on your shoulder. Oh my gosh, I need to drink more water. I just want us to get out of that fixation. And that's not to say that I don't want to make money. It's not to say I don't want the brand deals. It's not to say I don't want the views. But I can't let those things be the foundation of the work that I do. And I think nonetheless, like that's where we have to stay. And if you don't have the energy or your foundation starting to be shaky because of those things or whatever that may be for you, it's time to reevaluate. And bills come regardless. So you may not always have the time to stop working. But when you don't have the time to start working, you just gotta. Ooh, ooh, I thought I had to sneeze, but it went away. Oh, I hate that so much. Sorry about that, y'all. I was really about to sneeze and then it went away. I'm despised. I despise that. But yeah, you just have to be. You just have to be gracious to yourself. You gotta be patient. And I think that right now, in a time period of my life where I'm trying to pursue content creation, and I've done content creation for so long, um, whether it be Twitch, doing YouTube, um, doing, trying to do Instagram branding, like I've done it for so long. Um, and it's just, it changes in seasons, Beforehand, it was only Twitch, and I would try to upload clips on YouTube. Now it's Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, uploading clips on Instagram for Reels, trying to do brand deals. So it's like, and mind you, I'm not the first person in my family to do this. I don't believe by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think I'm the first. But I will say, like, it becomes difficult because there's nobody to show me how. And of course, there's always gonna be content creators who are like, this is what you have to do for content creation. This is what you do for content creation. These are my tips. These are my steps. But they only apply generally. If I want to pursue what I want to do in this life, whether it be shooting films on YouTube, whether it be recording these podcasts weekly, whether it be on Twitch doing my streams once a week, or if I have my anime YouTube channel trying to talk about certain things, like everything requires time, effort, and a plan. and I'm good at planning for the most part, but it's hard to plan for something you don't have experience seeing thrive. And I think that's where like the perks of a social media manager comes in, but like I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to get a social media manager because, well, at least not yet, because I feel like there's just so much more that I want to capitalize off the strength of me alone. One of the things I have learned about content creation is that um, you can't rely on the brand deals. You can't rely on the viewership to pay you. You have to create a product, or either a product or a service that facilitates everything to give you some residual income. And it's just something that's like you're in the mud. You're in the mud. You're just working, you're working, you're running towards something. You might be moving slow, it might be dirty, it might be messy, but you're moving forward. And I think that like I'm in the mud myself trying to figure out how can I attain all these things, and like having a sit down talk with myself with like if I did do brand deals, what brands would I want to go for? Do I have the engagement sustainability to even start a brand deal? Is it possible for me to just keep going from the start? There's so many pieces of content creation when you try to market it as a means to navigate life. And I think it's just, at the end of the day, content creation is just performing who you are. And then as you get good reception, you just expand it to a grand scale. So I think that that's like the easiest way for me to navigate that. But the mental health part is something I'm still grasping. And I think I'm doing better than many. I know some people who won't even get the help. They're just like, forget it. This is what it is. I'm stuck. There's nothing I can do. And I think that there are other people who are taking it more seriously than I am. Whereas like if it targets their mental health, they're like, I don't even need it. Boom, toss it aside. And I think I'm in between. I think I'm getting there. And I'm working on evolving with that. I paint, watch movies, film, play cards, play the game, try to detach from the stressors that are causing you stress. Sometimes all it takes is a good book. Um, taking baby steps. I go to Barnes and Noble, get myself some manga volumes. It just like it depends. But I say that to say because it's like I want us to get into the habit of prioritizing mental health. You know, it's so easy, and this is the issue. This is my biggest issue because this is just life in general. It is so easy to be the worst version of you. It's so easy to be toxic. It's so easy to do. It's easy to be lazy. It's easy to do these things, but it's so much harder to do something that's worthwhile. And that's just the nature of the beast. Like that's just the game. But it becomes to be great at something you've never seen, you have to do something that you've never done. And I think that like I keep pushing that envelope for me. Like I keep pushing towards that finish line of I'm putting myself in a space to explore and excel. That's my two E's. Explore and excel. I just want to explore what it is to do content creation, explore what it is to do film for me, where it comes from, where it stems from, how can I navigate this, how am I going to treat each space, and then excel. Once I figure out how I've explored, excel at what I'm doing, and I'm still getting there. And I think we're all getting there. Like I'm about to be 25, and many people at 25, they're exploring and excelling. And sometimes you're only doing one. Sometimes people at 25 are only exploring. Sometimes people at 25 are only excelling without the exploration. And to kind of explain what I mean by that, if you're only exploring, you're constantly trying to figure out what it is that's going to make me happy, what is it that's going to bring me purpose, and you're looking and you're looking and you're looking. Who am I? What is this going on? What am I doing? And I think that excelling at this age tends to be either you're not exploring who you are and just excelling at the work you think you should be doing, or you have explored who you are and now it's just time for you to reap what you sowed and you're excelling. And it's like you have to respect the season of life that everybody else is in, you know? Like it's just one of those things. It's very difficult to sit here and be like, you know what? You should be at this point in your life. You should be at this point in your life. And it's not that simple. Life is not meant to be a general thing where like everybody should be doing one thing at this time of their life at this time of their life. You don't even have control over your day to day. And I know that people, and you know what's crazy is that I hate cliches, but the fact of the matter is that like once you wake up, you've already beat the odds. You know, once you go to sleep, you've already beat the odds. Not many people make it through the day. Not many people make it through the morning. Not many people wake up or make it through the afternoon. And it's like I don't say that for you to be empty minded about it. Like obviously, if you have a hard time getting up in the morning, this is not to dismiss that feeling, but more or less it's to provide a foundation of why. Because I'm the exact same way. People always say that God woke you up this morning, and it's like yeah, He did wake me up this morning, and you can always rebuttal with like I had a hard time getting up this morning, but but that's where mindfulness comes in, and it's something that I have to do a better job of. Mindfulness is something that I have to do a better job taking a hold of. And when people get up in the morning, they're like, I had a bad day. No, you had a bad morning. And if you have a bad afternoon, you don't say you have a bad day. You had a bad afternoon. If you say today is rough, that's humble. Today is rough is humble. But when God wakes you up in the morning, there's a why, there's a purpose. And so even if the morning is rough, you're waking up for a reason. So you do what you can. And I don't want you to be fake mindful about it, where it's like you're moving like a robot. Be present in your reality. It's not for you to fake. It's your life. And it's so much easier to do when it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's easier to do when it's who you embody. And it's not to say that I'm perfect either. As I told you guys, I'm still exploring and excelling at the same time. A lot of times we forget that. But I do wish out of all the things when I started to pursue content creation, in the beginning, a long, long, long time ago when I was in high school, actually, no, I was in middle school, maybe. It was either late middle school, early high school. And then even in college, I had my PlayStation, I had my laptop. I didn't have the whole PC desktop set up. I just had my laptop and I had my phone. So I would stream on Twitch on my PlayStation, and then I would look at the stream on my laptop or my phone, whatever I had nearby, and that's how I would go about my business. And I would edit clips proportionately, but I was such a perfectionist; those clips never got uploaded. It's just when I think about where I started versus now, the hustle is different, and the love for it is different. You know, I think when I was doing Twitch back then, and I had just gotten Twitch affiliate too. I think it was like what 2018, 2016. It might have been 2016, maybe, because I was on a sprint. I was on a sprint. I was like, I want to get affiliate. I'm going for it. Move, move, move. I was moving. I was moving. I was streaming. I think like maybe 3 times a week. I think it was like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was figuring out if I could do guests. If I was trying to do with a friend group, I was always going in. And then I think like once I got to college, I think that's where it fell off. Those first 2 years of college was really a hindrance to how I performed in social media spaces. Because not only did work pile up because of school, but like also because just life was lifing. And that routine and schedule I had alongside like my exploration of am I excelling? became a really big individual hindrance for me, figuring out where I want to be. And I knew where I wanted to be. I knew what I wanted to do. And that social media stuff, like the streaming on Twitch, like I knew the feeling I got in my stomach when I did that. I knew the joy I felt when I did the content creation. I know the feeling I get when I sit here and I'm talking to y'all on a podcast, or if I'm recording on an episode for an episode, if I'm recording on my other YouTube, if I'm recording, other places, if I'm looking at films, trying to figure out what camera I want to get because I want to shoot my own films at some point. That's the stuff that gets you. That's the stuff that wakes me up in the morning. When I have a hard time waking up in the morning, that's the stuff that wakes me up in the morning. And I thank God that I found that piece of my purpose for me, because you can lose it and be out of touch so quickly, and not many people have already found what works for them. And it's not to say it's easy either. People think because you find what gets you up in the morning that all of a sudden it's going to be easy, but it's not. It's actually a lot more difficult, because it's knowing your why and still having to pursue it despite that. And it's just, it's something that we have to keep in mind. And you have to be careful. Not many people are. And I say this to say, content creation is one of the loneliest routes that you could ever be a part of. And it's kind of like you have no choice but to explore. You have no choice but to explore. And it's like, okay, you can move a certain way, but for those who don't explore, like, it destroys them in the long run. But if you explore, like, you excel in the long run. I think that's where sustainability comes from. Long-term sustainability is because your work is not who you are, but you make the work. Like, the work is nothing without you, but you are still everything with the work. And I want to be able to do. And I remember when I first started, doing content, even when I started streaming on Twitch, I was like, you know what? What inspired me was not the thousands, not the thousands. It wasn't the thousands of people who were talking and like engaging in conversation with the streamer. It was the ability to help others, like through charity streams, through um, just getting to know other people, providing spaces to collaborate, providing spaces to learn, providing spaces to do so much. And it gets difficult when you have a vision of what you want your content space to look like. And I think that there are people, and I'm going to be blunt here, that look like us, who may want your vision to look differently. And like I've said in this podcast before, you cannot allow other people to be the main character of what you're trying to do. It won't work. You'll lose sight of it. You won't even know what's next. You'll always be stuck in the present, looking back at the past and not knowing about the future. And it's not like you'll know about the future anyway, but you'll have a plan, you'll have a vision, you have goals to get there. You'll have a whole thing to look ahead of you for. But instead, you'll be kind of anxiety driven, of like, okay, I did this, so what's next? Okay, I did this, so what's next? And it's more about like, I did this, what do I want to do next? And it's very easy to lose sight of that. And I think that for anyone who pursues content creation in any facet, like, this is what it comes with. This is the territory. It's either late nights editing your videos and your clips, or it's hours throughout the week where your brain is going and you're like wondering, like, okay, is this going to perform well? Is this what I want to do? I want to shoot a film that does this. Okay, can I do it with my phone? How do I do that? Okay, what do I need to do this? I want to shoot a podcast episode this week. I need a guest. Okay, I have to inquire about a guest. Okay, if that guest doesn't answer, I got to shift what the podcast is supposed to be about for that episode. Let's go to the next guest. Like, you always have to be on go, constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly exploring to figure out how to excel. And if you can't sustain yourself in that process, you got to take breaks. And I know it's like the biggest, like, I don't want to say content red flag, but like some of the biggest things that people talk about is like, You have to be consistent. And I agree, you do have to be consistent. But if your content takes a dive and it's no longer like high performing or it's not performing the way you want it to, step away. Step away, revitalize, come back. So the consistency of your content remains the same. Or even if your content revolves around your quality of life, if you're in a low vibrational place that you can still function, there's nothing like showing awareness to what that looks like. And it's one of those things where it's like we have to have more healthier spaces for mental health. We have to have more healthier spaces in what we see in TVs and movies and everything of that nature. Because I feel like it's so, I don't like how much negativity is so profitable. It costs nothing to be negative, and yet it makes the most money. Well, I mean, my bad. Let me rephrase that. It costs everything to be negative, and yet that's where people make the most money. And it costs nothing to be positive, and that's the part that makes it so difficult to get into that avenue. And it's such a backwards way of looking at things, but that's the world we live in, and it's not really going to change anytime soon. So it's one of those things where I hope we have a better way of navigating it. But it happens to the best of us. But I say that to say in this current point in time in my life, in this current important time of my life, that like just do what makes you happy. And if you don't know what makes you happy, just just be around the people that you enjoy being around. And that should do it. It's obviously not that black and white, because purpose is really important to life, but just really get into it. For people who are religious, I'm a religious person. Number one should be God. You know, if you go right with God, nothing else can go left. And I'm a victim of it too. My want to be in control of my life, my want to be in control of the things around me. If I just do this, I could get it to be back to here. If I just do this, I can excel it right here. If I could put my finger on what's happening, I can get it to excel. And it's not like that. It's not like that at all. You can't. You have to surrender. Let life pass through you. Let it happen for you, not to you. Let it happen for you. And it's so easy to get caught up in it. It's so easy to get caught up in it. So it's just like put God first. And I'm not saying that to say that like it'll be perfect, like you'll be able to do it day in, day out. But it's the same way you build discipline. When you do a sport, you don't always feel like going to practice, but you practice still. That's how we should treat mental health. You don't always feel like being happy, but you have to practice happiness still. You don't always feel like pursuing the things that you want to do in your life, but you got to practice still. You don't feel like reopening up your Bible, or you don't feel like getting on your knees to pray, but you have to practice still. And I know it sounds like dreading and sounds like extra work for some. And for others, it's a call to arms. And for some people, they feel nothing about it, but you just have to start.